In the vastness of the universe of ideas, philosophical questions are like twinkling stars that illuminate the darkness of the unknown. Amidst this intellectual spectacle, C.S. Lewis's 37 phrases emerge as constellations of insight and inquiry, inviting us to explore the deepest mysteries of human existence. These brief yet impactful words serve as portals to a journey of reflection and discovery. What do these phrases reveal about the nature of truth, morality, and life itself? How do they challenge us to rethink our own conceptions and delve into the depths of human thought? In this analysis, we will unravel the power of these C.S. Lewis phrases and explore the universal truths they reveal. 1. Everything changes, nothing ever stays the same. C.S. Lewis's quote addresses a fascinating and often paradoxical aspect of human experience: the nature of time and our perception of change. The first part of the statement, "Everything changes, nothing remains the same," reflects a fundamental truth in many aspects of life and the universe. From the laws of physics, which show that the universe is in a constant state of change and evolution, to transformations in society, technology, and our personal lives, change is a constant. The second part of the quote, "Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back everything is different," speaks to how we perceive time and change in the short and long term. In day-to-day life, changes may seem insignificant or imperceptible because we are immersed in our routines, and the small daily variations do not seem to significantly alter the course of our lives. 2. There are far, far better things ahead than the ones you leave behind. This phrase by C.S. Lewis is an invitation to optimism and hope, encouraging us to look to the future with a positive perspective. The central idea is that, regardless of the losses or challenges we face, the future holds possibilities and joys that surpass what has been left behind. This thought can be particularly comforting in times of transition or loss, reminding us that closing one chapter in our lives makes room for the beginning of another, potentially more rewarding and enriching one. Lewis, with this statement, also touches on the transitory nature of life and the importance of not clinging excessively to the past or material things. Excessive attachment to what has been can prevent us from fully embracing new opportunities and experiences. The idea that the best is yet to come serves as a reminder to keep our minds and hearts open to the infinite possibilities the future holds. 3. Nothing in life ours to keep. This idea can be interpreted in various ways. In a material sense, it suggests that generosity and the act of sharing with others can enrich our own life experience, providing a sense of satisfaction and purpose that simple accumulation of material goods cannot offer. On a deeper level, it can be argued that only through generosity and altruism can we truly experience the richness of life, as it is in giving that we receive. Furthermore, Lewis may be touching on a broader spiritual or philosophical truth, where true freedom and fulfillment come from transcending selfishness and excessive attachment to worldly things. By opening ourselves to others and connecting to something greater than ourselves, we can find a sense of possession and belonging that is deeper and more enduring. 4. Give up yourself, and you will find your real self. This concept, often explored in spiritual and philosophical contexts, suggests that the true essence of who we are can only be found when we abandon the ego, superficial desires, and pretensions. Lewis is encouraging us to look beyond the layers of identity constructed by society, expectations, and our own ego. By giving up yourself, he refers to the act of setting aside these superficial layers to discover the true self that resides on a deeper level. This implies a process of detachment from material desires, selfish ambitions, and the relentless pursuit of external approval in order to connect with more authentic and enduring values. 5. Don't doubt your value. Don't run from who you are. Lewis suggests that our existence and essence have immense value simply because we are divine creations, regardless of how we compare ourselves to others or the ideals we may hold. This perspective invites us to recognize and value our own uniqueness and the unique contribution we can offer to the world. Furthermore, by stating, "Don't run from who you are," Lewis is encouraging us to confront and embrace our true nature, with all its imperfections and beauties. He suggests that authenticity and self-acceptance are essential for living a full and meaningful life. This acceptance is not just about recognizing our qualities, but also embracing our flaws and limitations, understanding that they are part of what makes us unique. 6. If you find in yourself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that you were made for another world. Lewis addresses the sensation, often experienced by many, that there is a kind of emptiness or longing within us that worldly joys and satisfactions cannot completely fill. This perception can lead to the conclusion that such insatiable desires point to a reality or existence beyond what is known and experienced in this physical world. The idea that we were made for another world suggests that human existence has a purpose and a meaning that extend beyond everyday life and earthly experiences. This view is rooted in many spiritual and religious traditions, which see life on earth as a journey or preparation for a higher or spiritual reality. 7. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body. Lewis is challenging the common perception that often prioritizes the physical and material, redefining human identity in a way that places the soul, or the spiritual essence, at the center. By stating that you are a soul, Lewis highlights the primacy and eternal importance of the soul compared to the physical body, which is temporary and transient. This view echoes many religious and philosophical traditions that see the body as a temporary vessel for the soul, which is the true essence of being. The idea that each of you will still be alive after the dissolution of the physical universe speaks to the belief in the continuity of the soul's existence beyond physical death. Lewis suggests that the true essence of who we are transcends the limitations of time and physical space, pointing to a spiritual reality that is eternal and unchanging. 8. Don't shine so others can see you. Shine so that, through you, others can see God. This idea is deeply rooted in the Christian notion of testimony, where an individual's life is seen as a mirror or a beacon that reflects God's light to the world. Instead of seeking personal glory, Lewis suggests that we should aspire to live in such a way that our actions, words, and even our presence allow others to glimpse divinity, goodness, and truth that transcend our individual existence. This perspective shifts the focus from the self to the other, and ultimately to the divine, promoting a way of living that is marked by generosity, service, and authenticity. By shining not for our own enhancement, but to illuminate the path to God, we are called to an existence that values humility and altruism, recognizing that our greatest contribution may be to facilitate others in finding their own connection to the sacred. 9. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Lewis suggests that challenges and adversities are not mere meaningless obstacles, but rather instruments of growth and preparation. Difficulties have the potential to transform us, shaping our character and refining our virtues in ways that prosperity and ease simply cannot. This process of growth through adversity is often what prepares us to take on larger roles and responsibilities, leading us to destinies that far surpass our initial circumstances. By mentioning that God allows these experiences of low points, Lewis is touching on the notion that there is a divine order and purpose behind life's events, even those that seem negative at first glance. The lessons learned through adversity are seen as essential to our spiritual and personal development, teaching us perseverance, compassion, humility, and dependence on a force greater than ourselves. The idea that God does not make anyone wait unless it is good for him to wait reflects a view that God's timing is perfect, even if we do not immediately understand it. Patience and waiting are seen not as emptiness or meaningless inactivity, but as an opportunity for internal growth and preparation for what is to come. Thus, Lewis encourages us to face difficulties and periods of waiting, not as abandonments, but as integral parts of a larger plan that leads us to an extraordinary destiny. 10. Experience is the most brutal of teachers. By referring to experience as the most brutal of teachers, Lewis is underscoring the often harsh and unforgiving nature of real life as a vehicle for learning. Unlike theoretical or academic learning, experience educates us through successes, and more often through failures, losses, and challenges. These moments can be painful and difficult to endure, but they are also incredibly potent in forging character, resilience, and wisdom. The second part of the phrase, "but you learn, my God, do you learn," emphasizes the effectiveness of this type of learning. Despite its brutality, or perhaps because of it, the lessons learned through experience tend to be deeply internalized. The direct experience of consequences, whether positive or negative, engraves knowledge in a way that passive instruction rarely achieves. 11. Repeated failures are fingerposts on the road to achievement. In describing failures as fingerposts, Lewis suggests that each failure serves as a lesson and a guide, pointing towards adjustments and changes necessary in our approaches, strategies, or even in our understanding. These posts illuminate the way, offering critical insights that help us navigate the path towards our goals. The idea of failing forward is particularly powerful. It implies that each failure, instead of pushing us backward, actually propels us forward, bringing us closer to success. This is because we learn, adapt, and grow through our experiences of failure. This concept encourages a mindset of resilience and persistence, where obstacles are seen as opportunities for development and improvement. 12. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. Lewis challenges the notion that age is a barrier to aspirations, goals, and dreams. He emphasizes the infinite capacity of the human being to reinvent oneself and pursue new directions, regardless of where one stands in their life journey. This idea is an invitation to reject self-imposed limitations and social expectations that often accompany aging. Instead of viewing old age as a time to slow down or give up on new endeavors, Lewis suggests that there is always room for new beginnings and possibilities. This can be particularly inspiring for those who may feel they have missed opportunities or that it is too late to pursue passions or interests that have been set aside. Essentially, Lewis reminds us that the ability to dream and aspire knows no age limits. This message serves as an encouragement to continue seeking growth, fulfillment, and joy in all stages of our lives, embracing the ongoing journey of discovery and renewal. 13. Don't let your happiness depend on something you may lose. This brings forth a profound reflection on the nature of happiness and the importance of grounding it in aspects of life that are enduring and intrinsic, rather than external and transient. This idea encourages us to reconsider the sources of our joy and satisfaction, warning against basing our happiness on elements that are outside of our control and can easily be altered or lost, such as material possessions, social status, or even specific relationships. By highlighting the volatility of many of the things we value, Lewis suggests the pursuit of a more authentic and resilient happiness, one that is not shaken by the inevitable changes and challenges of life. This may involve cultivating internal virtues such as peace of mind, gratitude, self-love, and spirituality, which are less susceptible to external circumstances. 14. This world is a great sculptor's shop. It is a rich metaphor reflecting on the process of personal growth and transformation within the context of human existence. Comparing the world to a sculptor's workshop, Lewis suggests that life experiences, with their challenges and opportunities, act as the tools and techniques used by a sculptor to shape and define their creations. In this analogy, we humans are like unfinished statues, constantly being formed and refined by the hands of the sculptor, a metaphor for life's forces, circumstances, interactions with other people, and possibly a divine influence or destiny. Each experience carves our character, molds our values, and affects our life trajectory, contributing to the ongoing process of becoming who we are meant to be. The rumor that some statues will come to life can be interpreted as an allusion to the idea of reaching a state of awakening or spiritual enlightenment, where one becomes fully aware of their purpose, their essential nature, and their connection to something greater than themselves. This can also be seen as a moment of personal fulfillment, where a person transcends previous limitations and emerges more alive, authentic, and fully realized. 15. We are mirrors whose brightness, if we are bright, is wholly derived from the sun that shines upon us. Comparing ourselves to mirrors suggests that our value and brightness are not inherent, but reflected from a larger external source, in this case, symbolized by the sun. This source can be interpreted in various ways, including love, truth, beauty, or in a spiritual context, the divine. The idea that our brightness is wholly derived from this external source reminds us of our dependence and connection to something beyond ourselves to find meaning, purpose, and light in our lives. The second part of Lewis's reflection about the importance of keeping the self clean and bright to have a clear view of God reinforces the idea that our ability to perceive and reflect truth and beauty is affected by the state of our inner being. Just as the view of the moon can be obscured by a dirty telescope, our perception of the divine or the deeper meaning of life can be clouded by our faults, biases, or spiritual neglect. 16. There are two kinds of people, those who say to God, "Thy will be done," and those to whom God says in the end, "Thy will be done." Lewis delineates a fundamental division between those who choose to submit to divine will and those who insist on following their own path, regardless of divine guidance. By saying, "Thy will be done," an individual expresses a willingness to align with God's purposes and plans, placing God's wisdom and authority above their own preferences and desires. This voluntary submission is seen as an act of faith and trust in God's goodness and sovereignty. On the other hand, when God says, "Thy will be done" to an individual, Lewis suggests that God grants that person the freedom to choose their own path, even if that path leads to separation from God. This is an expression of divine justice and respect for human freedom, allowing the natural consequences of a person's choices to unfold. 17. C.S. Lewis's reflection. I have no duty to be anyone's friend, and no man in the world has a duty to be mine. No claims, no shadow of necessity. Friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art, like the universe itself, for God did not need to create. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things which give value to survival, addresses the nature and value of friendship in a deeply contemplative manner. Lewis is highlighting that friendship, unlike basic needs such as food and shelter, is not essential for our physical survival. However, he argues that it is precisely this unnecessariness that elevates friendship, philosophy, art, and the universe to something that transcends mere functionality or utility. Friendship is valued not for its usefulness, but for its ability to enrich the human experience, adding a layer of meaning, joy, and depth to life that goes beyond mere survival. By stating that there is no duty in friendship, Lewis also suggests that true relationships should not be based on obligations or expectations, but rather on a free and mutual choice to share life, thoughts, and moments. This underscores authenticity and voluntariness as essential aspects of meaningful friendships. The comparison with God's creation of the universe serves to illustrate the idea that the intrinsic value of something may lie in its beauty, complexity, and ability to inspire, rather than in its functional necessity. Thus, Lewis leads us to appreciate friendship and, by extension, art, philosophy, and the universe as gifts that enrich our existence, making life not only bearable, but deeply valuable. 18. You will never make a good impression on other people until you stop thinking about what sort of impression you are making. Lewis suggests that conscious effort to shape how we are seen often has the opposite effect, leading to a perception of inauthenticity or excessive effort. This reflection encourages us to adopt a more genuine and less calculated approach in social interactions. When concern about the impression we are making is replaced by authenticity and being present in the moment, we are more likely to truly connect with others. This is because authenticity promotes an openness and vulnerability that are essential for meaningful human relationships. Additionally, excessive concern about image can distract us from listening and engaging meaningfully with others, as we are more focused on how we are being perceived than on the interaction itself. By releasing the need to control others' perception, we make space to be ourselves, which is often more attractive and impressive than any carefully constructed persona. 19. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Lewis highlights that the act of loving inherently involves the risk of pain and loss because opening the heart to others, whether to people, animals, or even passions, exposes us to the possibility of being hurt. However, he argues that the only way to completely avoid this pain, by isolating oneself and protecting the heart from any emotional involvement, comes at a much higher cost. By doing so, the heart, while safe from pain, also becomes isolated from any form of true love and consequently from one of the most enriching experiences of human life. The paradox presented by Lewis is that in attempting to shield the heart from any harm by making it unbreakable and impenetrable, we actually render it unredeemable. This suggests that a heart never exposed to the risk of love loses its ability to love and be loved, becoming hardened and insensitive. 20. What draws people to be friends is that they see the same truth. Highlights the importance of intellectual and spiritual connections in forming deep and meaningful friendships. Lewis suggests that at the core of true friendships, there is a mutual recognition and appreciation of certain values, ideas, or fundamental truths that transcend superficial circumstances or passing interests. This view underscores that friendships are not merely based on convenience, physical attraction, or social circumstances, but on a deeper connection that involves the discovery and acknowledgement of a shared truth. This truth can refer to a common understanding of life, moral principles, a shared passion for certain subjects, or even a similar worldview. The act of sharing this truth implies not only recognizing it, but also experiencing and exploring it together, which can provide a solid foundation for the development of a lasting friendship. Friendships rooted in this kind of mutual understanding tend to be more resilient and enriching, as they are based on the mutual appreciation of aspects of being that are considered significant and valuable. 21. Love is a steady wish for the loved person's ultimate good. Lewis redefines love beyond the common notion of intense emotion or physical attraction. He presents love as an active and deliberate commitment to the well-being and happiness of the other person, regardless of circumstances or one's own emotions. This conception of love as a steady wish emphasizes the volitional and intentional nature of true love. It is not seen as something passive or merely sentimental, but as a continuous choice to prioritize the good of the loved one. This implies a commitment to actions and decisions that promote the well-being and fulfillment of that person, even if it requires sacrifice or selflessness. By qualifying the supreme good so far as it can be attained, Lewis also acknowledges the reality of human limitations and life circumstances. He suggests that while love aspires to the ideal of the highest good for the loved one must act within practical possibilities and the limitations of the real world. 22. Do not waste time bothering whether you love your neighbor. Act as if you did, and you will. explores a pragmatic and action-oriented approach to loving one's neighbor, a central idea in many ethical and religious traditions. Lewis suggests that instead of being paralyzed by internal analysis of our feelings or doubt about our ability to love others, we should simply start acting as if we love them. This principle reflects the idea that love can be both an action and a feeling, and that by choosing to act lovingly, regardless of our momentary feelings, we can cultivate genuine feelings of love over time. 23. No man knows how bad he is till he has tried very hard to be good. Addresses the complexity of human nature and the discovery of personal character through the effort to live according to high ethical or moral standards. Lewis suggests that it is in the process of striving to act rightly and do good that we often come face to face with our own failures, limitations, and negative tendencies. This reflection implies that understanding our own imperfections and the ability to recognize our faults are amplified when we put ourselves to the test, seeking to live virtuously. This can be a humbling experience as we discover that goodness and virtue are not as easily achieved as we might have imagined, thus revealing the depth and persistence of our flaws and weaknesses. 24. In God there is no hunger that needs to be filled, only plenteousness that desires to give, reflects a profound theological view on the nature of God and the relationship between the divine and humanity. Lewis suggests that God, being a being of fullness and perfection, has no needs or lacks. Instead, he is an infinite source of generosity and giving. This idea contrasts the conception of God with human nature, which is often driven by needs, desires, and a constant search for satisfaction. Instead, God is portrayed as someone whose essence is fullness, needing nothing from us to complete or improve his being. Therefore, God's desire to relate to humanity and provide for his creations is not motivated by a lack or need, but by an expansive and generous love that seeks to share his own fullness. 25. If a person thinks she is not conceited, she is very conceited indeed. Addresses the paradoxical nature of self-perception, especially regarding pride and vanity. Lewis suggests that excessive self-assurance in one's humility can ironically be a sign of deep pride. The act of considering oneself free from vanity can be in itself a manifestation of vanity, as it implies satisfaction with one's supposed moral superiority or self-control. This observation points to the complexity of human nature and the difficulty of achieving true humility, which is not based on denial of one's own faults, but on sincere recognition of them. True humility involves honest self-assessment and a willingness to accept that, as human beings, we are all fallible and susceptible to error and pride. 26. Pride is spiritual cancer. C.S. Lewis's view of pride as a spiritual cancer highlights the destructive nature of this vice in a person's spiritual and relational life. By describing pride in this way, Lewis suggests that it corrupts and consumes the ability to love, find satisfaction, and even exercise good judgment. Pride is presented not just as a minor character flaw, but as a corrosive force that can destroy the most fundamental aspects of human and spiritual well-being. The second quote expands on this idea, explaining how pride obstructs knowledge of God. Lewis illustrates this with the image of a proud person who is always looking down, both literally and metaphorically, judging others and circumstances from a position of supposed superiority. This posture of looking down symbolizes a self-imposed barrier that blocks sight and openness to higher realities, including the spiritual. Therefore, as long as one is stuck in this attitude of pride, they will be unable to perceive or connect with God, who is above in the spiritual sense. Both quotes emphasize the idea that pride not only negatively affects interpersonal relationships and self-image, but also constitutes a significant obstacle to spiritual growth and perception of realities beyond the self. Lewis invites us to recognize pride as a serious impediment to love, genuine happiness, and wisdom, encouraging a constant pursuit of humility as a path to spiritual health and true knowledge. 27. Only the pure in heart want to see God. This quote distills a profound truth about the nature of spiritual longing and the necessary condition for genuine seeking of God. Lewis suggests that purity of heart is not only a quality that makes someone fit to encounter God, but also the very characteristic that awakens the desire to seek Him. Purity of heart can be understood as a cleansing of intentions, an absence of falsehood or duplicity, and a sincerity in the pursuit of truth and good. This purity involves an orientation of the being toward what is genuine and good, free from the distortions of selfishness, pride, and disordered passions that can obscure spiritual vision and deflect the quest for truth. By stating that only the pure in heart desire to see God, Lewis is highlighting the idea that the desire to know and draw near to the divine requires a certain inner disposition characterized by purity and sincerity. This implies that the spiritual journey toward God begins with an inner work of purification and alignment of the desires of the heart with spiritual values. 28. Human history is the long, terrible story of man trying to find something other than God which will make him happy. C.S. Lewis's statements about human pursuit of happiness outside of God reflect a deep critique of the nature of human aspirations and endeavors throughout history. Lewis suggests that the relentless quest for satisfaction in earthly things, whether wealth, power, pleasure, or status, is futile, as true happiness and peace cannot be found apart from God. God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from Himself, because it is not there. This assertion highlights the view that any attempt to find lasting contentment outside of a relationship with the divine is doomed to failure, as the true source of peace and joy resides in God. To what will you look for help if you will not look to that which is stronger than yourself? This rhetorical question invites reflection on the need to seek support and guidance in a force greater than our own limited human capacity, suggesting that reliance on purely human resources or solutions is insufficient to address life's fundamental challenges. All that we call human history, money, poverty, ambition, war, prostitution, classes, empires, slavery, is the long, terrible story of man trying to find something other than God which will make him happy. This observation about human history as a series of failed attempts to find satisfaction in earthly substitutes for God underscores the view that many human endeavors and conflicts stem from a misguided search for meaning and contentment. Together, these reflections by Lewis challenge us to reconsider the sources in which we seek happiness and purpose, encouraging a reorientation toward spiritual values and a deeper relationship with the divine as the path to true satisfaction and peace. 29. Forgiving does not mean excusing. This quote distinguishes two fundamental attitudes toward dealing with offenses or mistakes. By stating that forgiveness does not equate to excuse, Lewis highlights the importance of acknowledging the seriousness and reality of an offense without allowing it to perpetuate resentment or hostility. Forgiveness implies a conscious decision to release resentment or the desire for retaliation against someone who has wronged us, even when we recognize that the act committed against us was wrong and unjustifiable. This distinction is crucial because it recognizes the responsibility of the offender without allowing that offense to dominate future relationships or the emotional state of the offended party. In contrast, excusing someone often involves minimizing the offense or justifying the offender's behavior, potentially ignoring the harm caused. Thus, excusing can inadvertently enable or validate harmful behavior. Lewis suggests that forgiveness is a deeper act that requires considerable moral strength. It involves choosing to respond to wrongdoing with a kind of mercy that does not deny the injustice of the act, but chooses not to define oneself or be consummated by it. This approach to forgiveness allows for healing and reconciliation while maintaining moral integrity by acknowledging the gravity of the wrong. Therefore, a forgiveness, as Lewis conceives it, is an act of grace that transcends mere acceptance of others' faults, promoting the restoration of relationships without denying the reality of the harm caused. 30. Thirst was made for water, inquiry for truth. By C.S. Lewis offers a powerful metaphor that underscores the intrinsic connection between human pursuit of knowledge and the nature of truth. By comparing physical thirst for water with the innate desire to understand truth, Lewis invites us to reflect on the fundamental need we have to seek knowledge and understanding. Just as thirst is a natural condition that drives us to seek water to quench it and ensure our physical survival and well-being, curiosity and the desire to understand are fundamental impulses that lead us to seek truth, to satisfy our need for intellectual and spiritual knowledge and understanding. This comparison emphasizes that just as water is essential for physical life, truth is indispensable for our intellectual and spiritual life. Just as our bodies are designed to seek and consume water to maintain their health and proper functioning, our minds are naturally inclined to question, explore, and seek understanding to grow and thrive intellectually. 31. Faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted, in spite of your changing moods. This phrase by C.S. Lewis offers a profound understanding of faith that transcends mere emotional or irrational belief. Lewis suggests that true faith involves a continuous commitment to convictions and truths that have been accepted by reason, even when emotions or circumstances may try to sway us. This conception of faith highlights its active and deliberate nature, not as a passive state of acceptance, but as a constant exercise of will and discipline. By defining faith as the art of staying firm, Lewis implies that it requires practice, skill, and conscious effort to sustain beliefs in the face of doubt, fear, or uncertainty that may arise with fluctuations in our emotional states or changes in life circumstances. By emphasizing that faith is based on things reason once accepted, Lewis is also rejecting the notion that faith and reason are mutually exclusive. Instead, he proposes that authentic faith has its roots in rational and conscious understanding, and that maintaining this faith requires a continuous and deliberate return to these rational principles, especially when challenged by ever-changing moods. 32. We meet no ordinary people in our lives. This statement by C.S. Lewis offers a deeply human perspective on the nature of interpersonal interactions and the uniqueness of each individual. Lewis suggests that every human encounter, no matter how brief or trivial it may seem, is an opportunity to connect with someone extraordinary, whose life, experiences, and perspectives are unique and valuable. This assertion challenges the notion that some people are common or ordinary, highlighting that all individuals have a story, an inner complexity, and a unique potential that make them worthy of attention and respect. Even those who may seem to play mundane roles in our lives can have unexplored depths and inner riches that deserve to be recognized and valued. 33. Everyone thinks forgiveness is a lovely idea until he has something to forgive. This quote addresses the challenging nature of forgiveness and how our perspective on it can change when we find ourselves in the position of needing to forgive someone for a transgression or injustice. Initially, many people may agree that forgiveness is a noble and desirable virtue, recognizing its moral value and the emotional benefits it can bring to both the aggressor and the offended party. However, when confronted with the reality of a situation where they have been hurt or harmed by someone else, the act of forgiveness can become much more difficult than they imagined. This quote highlights the human tendency to idealize forgiveness when we are not directly involved in situations of conflict or hurt. However, when we are faced with the real need to forgive someone who has hurt us, we may discover that forgiveness is a complex and painful process that challenges our emotions, self-image, and values. 34. Integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching. This quote highlights the importance of acting in accordance with our values and principles, regardless of the presence of supervision or the potential for reward or punishment. By defining integrity as doing the right thing, Lewis suggests that true integrity goes beyond simply following rules or social norms. It is a matter of moral and ethical principles. This implies making choices based on what is morally correct, even if it is easier or more advantageous to act otherwise. The part of the phrase that emphasizes that this should be done even when no one is watching underscores the importance of authenticity and consistency in our actions. This means that integrity is not something we display only to impress others or avoid negative consequences. It is a quality that is inherently valuable and shapes our conduct in all aspects of life. 35. Children are not a distraction from more important work. They are the most important work. This quote emphasizes the priority and significance of caring for and raising children in a person's life. In doing so, Lewis highlights the responsibility and privilege that parents have to shape and influence the development and future of their children. This statement challenges the common notion that caring for children is merely a secondary part or an obligation that competes with other activities considered more important or meaningful. Instead, Lewis argues that children are not a distraction, but rather the central focus and primary responsibility of any adult who takes on the role of a father or mother. By recognizing children as the most important work, Lewis underscores the profound influence that parents have on the lives and development of their children. He suggests that parental care extends beyond simply providing material needs. It involves nurturing, educating, guiding, and loving children, preparing them to face life's challenges and become responsible and compassionate adults. 36. A children's story that can only be enjoyed by children is not a good children's story. Lewis argues that a story intended for children should be able to captivate and enchant not only the child audience, but also adults, regardless of their age. This statement suggests that the best children's stories transcend age limitations and have a universal appeal that resonates with readers of all ages. They should contain elements such as imagination, adventure, wisdom, and emotion, which can be appreciated and valued by people of all ages, from the youngest children to the oldest adults. By emphasizing that a good children's story should be able to attract a broader audience, Lewis acknowledges the importance of the power of narrative to educate, inspire, and entertain people of all ages. He suggests that, even as we grow and mature, we never lose our love for the magic of enchanting stories, and that we should continue to seek out that magic throughout our lives. 37. True humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. By stating that true humility is not thinking less of yourself, Lewis highlights that self-esteem and recognizing one's own worth are not incompatible with humility. On the contrary, genuine humility involves a balanced view of oneself, free from arrogance or pride, but also free from self-deprecation or underestimation. The second part of the phrase, "it's thinking of yourself less," points to the essence of true humility. It suggests that genuine humility is characterized by a shift of focus from the ego and one's own needs to the needs and interests of others. This implies a spirit of service, compassion, and consideration for others, where the self is not at the center of attention, but rather concern for the well-being and happiness of others. This quote challenges the common notion that humility is linked to self-denial or lack of self-esteem. Instead, Lewis argues that true humility is rooted in a balanced view of oneself, combined with a sincere willingness to put others first. As 37 quotes by C.S. Lewis offer a rich and multifaceted tapestry of wisdom and insight into various aspects of human life, faith, morality, and the human condition. Together, these quotations form a comprehensive panorama that invites deep reflection and personal introspection. A conclusion we can draw from these quotes is the importance of seeking truth, authenticity, and integrity in our lives. Lewis reminds us that true wisdom lies in the ability to look beyond superficial appearances and delve into the essence of things, cultivating a deeper understanding of the world and ourselves. Moreover, the quotes highlight the importance of empathy, compassion, and love for others, as well as the need to cultivate virtues such as humility, forgiveness, and gratitude in our daily lives. They challenge us to grow, to learn, and to evolve as individuals, constantly striving for moral and spiritual excellence. Another recurring theme in these quotes is the idea that true happiness and fulfillment are not found in material achievements or external successes, but rather in connection with the divine, in cultivating meaningful relationships and in serving others. Ultimately, C.S. Lewis's words remind us that the journey of life is a continuous search for meaning, purpose, and transcendence. They encourage us to embrace the challenges, to embrace the journey of life with courage and determination, and to constantly seek truth, goodness, and beauty in the world around us.